Good morning, all of you beautiful beings of light. Today I have on a very special guest, Ismael Perez. He is, as some of you might know, you might have seen him around the internet. He's kind of the new guy in the awakened community everybody's wanting to talk to. I had the opportunity of meeting him a few weeks ago in person and kind of get to know him a little bit better than perhaps I would have on camera. So today I'm having him on. We're going to have a great conversation about what's happening in the world right now and probably the past, present, and future. Before I bring him on, I wanted to remind all of you that my Transcendence Process class is now open for registration. It starts in September. This is a class that's based on the process I was given for healing my own life and my own transcendence after the 2008 recession. It's actually the process that's in my book, Transcending Fear. And I teach it as a class for those who want more one-on-one instruction when it's specific to issues in their own lives and how to see their present reality from the eyes of love. So that's the Transcendence Process class. It is available on my website at victoriareynolds.com. If you click on the shop button and scroll down, you'll find the registration for it and more information about what that is. And now, let me bring in Ismael and this amazing conversation I know that you are going to enjoy and that hopefully lights you up so that you can see more of what's possible for yourself and for all of humanity. So let's bring him in now. Good morning, Ismael. It's so good to see you again.
Morning, Victoria. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I'm getting over the final stages of what it has been labeled as the cove, shall we say. And that's been really interesting because at first I thought I just had, actually what I had, which I find really interesting. When you and I met, there was a solar storm going on. And there was a massive solar storm. I did some research on it later. Apparently, NASA wasn't even expecting it. It was massive for the 4th of July. So a whole lot of people got slammed with these solar waves for the 4th of July. And I had the effects from that. Whenever there's a solar storm, I feel it. I get headaches and I get nausea whenever there's a solar storm. So I knew that was happening. And then I ended up getting exposed to the sniffles and other things. And I thought it was just a cold, but it's still lingering. So it's whatever it is, it's lasting a while. So, but I'm well, it hasn't been bad. It's just been sinusy, sniffly stuff. But the test says I'm positive. So I'm hunkering down with my kids. So how have you been?
I've been really good. Just staying very busy, trying to reach as many people as possible with this next level cosmic intel, in order to prepare people for the dramatic changes that are coming. We are expecting this huge shift in consciousness any day now as we approach critical mass. And I believe we're almost there. And that probably has a lot to do with the CMEs that are just ranking up. Because as you know, the CMEs are actually codons of light that are communicating with our bodies at a cellular level. And they're issuing new programs, new blueprints in order for new codons to come online. And that explains the different upgrades and the activations that are taking place. And then, of course, the physical symptoms that are associated with that, like, nausea, having headaches, migraines, or just all of a sudden just being tired throughout the middle of the day. And then ups and downs, of course, back pain. I mean, all these different symptoms that are associated with this genetic upgrade that's taking place, which is awesome. This is like definitely, the best times to be living in.
Right. Absolutely. For those of us that know what's going on, it's incredibly exciting. For those who don't, it's very scary. So for the sake of my audience, what is CME?
A CME is a coronal mass ejection. It's pretty much when the sun is at its optimal activity, causing, releasing these solar flares. And these solar flares are actually also known as gamma ray or scalar rays that are coming from the galactic core. So our sun is actually being used as a vehicle where it's transmitting these galactic energies from the galactic core into our solar system. And of course, it's affecting our planet. And this is the way, through these solar activation cycles, this is the way civilizations move up to the next stage or the next level of evolution. So as I speak right now, there's a huge shift taking place throughout the entire Milky Way galaxies, where population one systems, which are civilizations that are in their beginning stage of space travel and free energy devices and interdimensional physics, kind of like new in that aspect, they're going to be now transformed or transition into the next stage, which is stellar. At that point, they're going to be using star energy or star power, and at the same time, those that are in that type 2 stellar level of civilization are actually moving up to galactic civilizations. So our planet, being at type 0, is actually now in the transition of becoming a type 1 interplanetary system. And that explains the changes. That explains the free energy technology, the advanced interplanetary technology that the Y-Hats and the Alliance have been using in secret for over 50 years, and how they're getting ready to bring that technology now to the general public, which is going to be part of the disclosure. Most people think that disclosure is just about, exposing the cabal for their crimes against humanity, exposing the mark of the beast, right? That they've been administrating the last few years. But it's really just more than that. It's about letting people know that we're part of a greater community of light known as the galactic community. And then even beyond that, we're also part of a cosmic community. So disclosure is more about reinstating the Earth back into the galactic community. Because as I speak right now, and as the commanders are constantly communicating with me, they're saying that many of the commanders are actually part of the Alliance. The Alliance is comprised of not only Earth humans, but also Federation personnel that are, in human form, assisting, the Y-Hats. And it's really all about, developing first contact and bringing the Earth back into the galactic community. So that's where all this is heading to in the next few years. So it's exciting to be here now.
Yeah, it really is. You talked about the gamma rays. I was shown back in 2015 that's what was starting to come to the planet. And what I was shown was that it was coming from a singularity. At the time, I didn't understand what that meant. We were calling them G waves, God, goddess waves. And then Saint Germain explained to me that they were gamma waves, and that they're actually changing our genetic makeup, and that our superpowers were being turned on. And it's funny that they talk about the gamma waves in like the Marvel movies from 10 years ago. And that's exactly what they were showing us, that these gamma waves were coming and that they were going to be changing us and igniting our superpowers. So for me, it's no surprise to see so many people are becoming psychic and telepathic and have healing capacities. That's all these spiritual gifts, the superpowers being activated. But my understanding is that the next level of superpowers is more like, so for me, I watched Doctor Strange a couple of days ago, the new multiverse one, and he does, opens the portal. I'm like, I can do that.
Yeah.
Like, I know this body has the ability to do that. So it's frustrating now in that it doesn't. It's like, I know what this is capable of doing, but it hasn't been activated yet. So it's really exciting to know that it is being activated, even though the body presently doesn't respond that way, that our bodies are going to be able to do what it is we can actually envision doing.
Absolutely. And, in other dimensions, we're already doing that. This is just our physical avatar in the third dimension, but we have different avatars in different dimensions. And, we've been doing this in other dimensions. We were the ones that were securing, the victory of the light in the intergalactic war against the dark forces. Many starseeds forget that one of the reasons why we're here is to finalize this war and to bring in, heaven on earth to this planet. As you know, this planet has been prophesied throughout the galactic records to be the hub of the multiverse upon its ascension. The new Sophia, the new headquarters world, and the starseeds are actually going to be the new guardians from this planet, as we collapse the other dimensional selves into the here and now, and we become multidimensional again. So, this is what we're going to be experiencing pretty soon when this, trigger takes place, activating our dormant DNA, which is going to bring us back into a multidimensional state of consciousness and awareness.
Right. So I've got a couple of questions for you. One, this one it is because you're a dad too. And so a lot of my audience, they have kids and they want to know, particularly with our Gen Z kids, that's the kids who are between 15 and 25, that have been snowed, if you will, by the dark narrative. And so we talk about moving into 5D. I know that a great deal of humanity right now is in 4D, and I won't get into that so much, other than that we had a 3D 4D convergence in 2012. So we've been experiencing both 3D and 4D, at the same time. And that 4D is where those gifts start to get activated. So there are a lot of people that think they're going to go straight from 3D to 5D and don't understand there's a spiritual process that happens in 4D. The question is, what about our kids who are completely swooned right now by the dark side, if you will? I mean, they're really, really good kids, but they have been sucked in by the darkness. What about them?
Are you talking about the kids that were coerced to get the mark of the beast?
No, but so for example, our kids who have been convinced they need to sexually mutilate themselves. Let's put it that way.
Oh.
I'm talking about the gender issue.
Oh, I see.
It's being pushed around school right now.
Right.
And what about the kids who think they have to get every that comes along, and that have been sucked into what the mainstream media says is real. Let's put it that way. So there are a whole lot of kids who are starseeds, but have been swooned by the woke agenda, if you will. So I don't even like using the word woke, because 10 years ago, I was using the word woke as a way of talking about being awakened. But the dark side takes our words and manipulates them and twists the meaning behind them. So there are a lot of us who are here, who we know we're here to be the spiritual leaders for humanity. And that's where we're going. And this is what we're teaching. But our kids aren't awake. And so a lot of people are really concerned. What about their kids?
I think because of the fact that these kids are the fourth wave or indigo children, there's a huge attack on them, because after all, they're the future. But I also believe that the forces of light are going to remedy the situation. And probably that probably is in direct relationship to the coming flash. I think the coming flash is going to trigger those kids back into their mission, back into their, it's going to snap them out of this, mesmerized.
Yeah, they're under a spell.
They're under a spell. Yeah. Technically speaking, the majority of humans are under a spell. But
right.
I think that, the disclosure, the EBS, when all this is announced, when the Y-hats come forth with what they know, I think that's going to act as a catalyst for not only the children who are hypnotized, but also for those that are still sleeping. So, from what I understand is Prime Creator Soul designed it all in a way where there was going to be no soul left behind. The only people the only intelligences that are going to be destroyed is the sentient AI, those that have no souls, the inorganic ones. But as far as those that have souls, that weren't pushing the mark of the beast, that were, innocent, and they had to do it just to keep their jobs, they're going to be redeemed.
Okay.
That's what I was informed.
Yeah, that's what I've been told too. I just wanted to hear that from you as well. And I keep saying no one gets left behind. No one gets left behind. We all cross the bridge together, even if it's for those of us who are already here and spiritually advanced, but yes, I mean, those of us who came here as volunteers to reach our hand across and help others across the bridge. And I keep telling people that's why we woke up early. That's why we came here early, is to help everyone else cross that spiritual bridge.
bridge the gap between matter and spirit, integration.
Right. And that they'll be fine.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have a time frame for when you see this happening? I know people keep asking you that, and what I've been shown is that it keeps, over the years, it has been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And it really feels like this summer something is happening. Would you agree with that, or do you see it being pushed back some more?
I don't think so, because as of March, I think May 6th, I'm sorry, the Earth Alliance and the White Hats have checkmated to the dark side. The Cabal is no longer in control. Okay. So I believe that that big event that everybody's sensing, that the mediums are, feeling in ethers, that everybody's picking up upon, where astrologers as well are seeing the alignments coming in favor of something big. It has a lot to do with the disclosure, with EBS, and a huge, massive revealing to the sleeping masses.
Right.
So I think I've always believed that 2022 was going to be the year of disclosure. And I've had that vision for a few years now. So I'm going to stick to that. Hopefully, that's what it's going to be unfolding in the next month or two.
Okay.
So, the time, and, everything's going to be unfolding according to divine timing. But I always tell people, it's going to happen. It's been prophesied about. Nobody knows the time or the date, but things are going to be unfolding in favor of the light eventually.
Well, I think it's because there's so many of us here now. So my understanding is that the Side of Light has tried this before, but there weren't enough people on the planet to assist that process.
I believe
and that now there are so many of us who have volunteered to be here, all the star seeds and angelics and benevolent ETs who have all chosen to take human form. There are now so many of us here. It's an army.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like all of the hosts of angels have taken human form, and there are so many of us, it's impossible to stop it. There are so many of us, it's impossible to stop people from waking up. And that, this particular time has been foretold for thousands of years.
Exactly.
And it's really exciting that we are actually here.
And that we are those angels that incarnated in human form. And you're right, there's millions of us here, so when this activation takes place and all millions of us become like the Christ, with these amazing superhero X-Men powers, because even the Christ revealed that in the Bible. He said, you would even do greater works than me.
Right.
You're all gods and goddesses, and so, and even the scientists have been predicting the rise of the next level stage of human evolution. They call it Homo nauticus, which is a term describing Homo superior, Homo galactics. And they've been talking about this for 30 to 40 years now. And I think that's one of the reasons why the powers that be have been seeing this time as a threat to them. Right. Because, they've been doing everything in their power through their, through spraying of the skies, through the poisoning of our food system, through the medical industry. I mean, you name it. It seems like they've been hitting us from all angles in an effort to suppress the prophecies, and that's why they've been poisoning our bodies. Mm-hmm. But like you said, we're just, so many of us are down here at this time that even our collective combined energy is neutralizing all those negative effects, to the point where most of us are already vibrating in fifth dimensional Earth, where we are untouchable. We are shielded from what's going on in the third dimensional reality, from the effects of EMF waves, 5G, all that stuff, it's not going to affect us. And it hasn't been, because of the fact that we are vibrating at a different frequency where those gadgets or those technologies no longer affect us, because they're only operable within the third dimensional level of reality. And so, we want to get as many people up there, at least vibrating to the fourth dimensional Earth, because ultimately, even in the fourth dimensional Earth, it's still going to be a utopia. It's still going to be a far much better world than this one. And,
right.
Yeah. So it's exciting to see how it's all going to unfold, Victoria.
It really is. Yeah. And some of us have known for quite a while that this is coming. So there are a lot of people who are what I call spiritual newbies, the newly awakened, and this mass awakening that started really in 2020. It's interesting because the guidance I got before lockdown, in 2020 was the be still and know that I am. And so it may have been part of the dark agenda to create the lockdown, but I keep telling people that the light can work wonders under the cover of darkness. So the side of light allows the side of darkness to do what it does, knowing it's actually going to wake people up. So all these people went inside their houses in 2020 for the lockdown because that's what they were told they needed to do. And that's when they woke up. That's when they started discovering, God within themselves. That's when they started having spiritual awakenings. That's when they started seeing the corruption starting to be exposed. And so it completely backfired on the side of dark. And I keep telling people the dark side just continues to shoot itself in the foot.
Absolutely.
And so that's what it's doing now. And with everything that's happening right now, the dark side is just shooting itself in the foot, and the side of light is like, okay, you guys just keep doing what you're doing because you're going to expose yourselves. And so that's what I see happening when people ask me, why is this being allowed to happen? I'm like, because it's actually waking people up.
Exactly. It's a catalyst, including the fraud that took place back in 2020. That was all supposed to happen in order to gather more evidence of the crimes against the Republic.
Absolutely. And the evidence is stacking up. Oh, it's so funny. I'm seeing like huge stacks of paper everywhere. The
resignations, the Italian prime minister just announced his resignation, and we all knew he was deep state. Many prime ministers and people who have been puppets of the deep state are now stepping down for a reason. And this has only been happening within the last week, Victoria. So
right.
We're seeing the changes.
Well, what's interesting is that the people who are asleep are even starting to see that. So, for example, a conversation I have with my daughter, who is a starseed, and she just hasn't been, well, she's under the spell like a lot of other people. She's like, oh my gosh, Boris, like all these leaders, they're either stepping down or they're being assassinated by their own people, or their people are pulling them down. And I'm like, yes, isn't this amazing? Because we've been saying for decades, those of us who are here, this wave of spiritual teachers that we are, your age group, my age group, right? That we've known for years, we've been saying all of our systems need to collapse. The government needs to collapse. And so we're actually seeing it happen. And so for people who don't understand, this is actually the best thing that could possibly happen to humanity, that all of our systems are beginning to fail. The old world doesn't serve humanity anymore. And thank goodness all the systems are starting to fail, because now we get to reconstruct a completely new reality. And I keep telling people that human beings don't actually need to be governed. So because they're like, oh my gosh, who's going to be the next president? Who's going to be I'm like, we don't actually need that. The advanced human, the love, because every single one of us is love, having love in a body, love, spirit, having a human experience. That when we're living our lives in this vibration of love, we don't need to be governed by anybody else. This whole story we've been told that human beings have to have rules and jails and governments and armies and police, that's all a lie that humanity's been fed to keep us under control and to keep us in fear. And that as we move into this loving vibration, this loving world, we actually won't have kings and presidents and pastors and ministers and anybody who sees themselves as above the rest. We just don't need that. So the collapsing of all these systems is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And even the advanced civilizations, they don't have governments like we do. They don't have centralized monopolies. They don't even have money. Money doesn't even exist in the fifth dimension.
Right.
It's more of an understanding, of a planetary understanding, a partnership where everyone is operating at the same frequency of love, compassion, forgiveness, unity consciousness, which is the definition of Christ consciousness. And, people fail to understand that there's many advanced worlds that are already settled in life and light, that, they form councils, right? And that's the true meaning of a democracy, where many come together in council to discuss, what is best for the greatest number. And that is the type of system that we are returning into. It's going to be a whole new different world structure. And what's amazing about this world structure is that all the ascended beings, the prophesied 144,000, are going to be, in a way, because due to their big heart, they're going to be the ones that are in a way going to be overseers of the New World Council, the 144,000. And the ascended masters, of course, who are now embodied in human form, once they make their appearance, they're going to be generating so much love that, people are just going to be wanting to be educated by them. And so the ancient mystery schools are going to be reestablished, the academies of light, all that stuff is coming. It's part of the new earth structure.
Yeah, I love to hear that, because I can see that well, it's going to call being traveling teachers, because that's what a lot of us are going to be doing is traveling and teaching what it is that we know, that we remember from the ancients. And it's not ancient humans. I'm talking about ancients within the galaxy, within the universe. Is this understanding that those of us who are older souls have been carrying with us for many, 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 many lifetimes, and now have come here on the planet to be able to teach that when people are ready and awake enough to be able to receive it. So it's really exciting that a lot of human beings are starting to wake up to be able to receive this information. Or even 10 years ago, we couldn't have had this conversation without people looking at us like we were completely insane. And that is how much the human mind has opened and advanced in the last 10 years. The guidance I was getting about 10 years ago is that human beings are only given the information that they're able to comprehend. And so it's been really interesting to see how much humanity has grown and how much the mind has opened up to be able to receive this information and to know what to do with it. But the exciting thing is that a lot of people actually know what to do with the information and use it to create a better world. Where before, in this old third dimensional reality, we've been regurgitated the same information over and over and over again for thousands of years. And that now that what the fourth dimension did is that it allowed more of this information to start coming in, and more of the minds of human beings to open up to be able to even conceive the conversations that we're having right now. So it's very exciting.
Very, very. And that makes perfect sense, Victoria, because even when I did finish writing my manuscript, Our Cosmic Origin, that was actually 5 years ago. It was sitting there for 4 years because the galactics were telling me that the collective wasn't ready for this next level information.
Right.
They weren't ready to know about the organization of the multiverse. They weren't ready to understand the bigger galactic and cosmic picture and how it relates to all the, the stuff that's been going on in this world. And so when the time came, it's funny because I was thinking to myself, how am I going to get this book published? I had no connections. I didn't know any author, any publishers, any editors. I had no resources. All I knew is that I was being guided to write the book. And then so it was just sitting there for like 4 years. Okay. And then finally, when the Galactics told me, okay, it's time. No kidding. A buddy of mine who I haven't heard from over 10 years reached out to me and called me and said, Ishmael, I'm being prompted to let you know that I'm here to, assist you in whatever project you want to execute. I have the resources. I have, everything that you need. And I told him about my book, and he goes, great, we could get that edited right away. And, within 6 months, it should be out. And I'm like, oh my God, the Galactics were right. Because everything has to happen in divine timing. If I would have published this book, Victoria, 5 years ago, nope, it would have been just over everybody's head, And this is just right around the time where people were starting to understand that the drama that has been unfolding in this world is actually intergalactic and cosmic. It goes beyond our world, and people were just starting to understand that. People were beginning to wake up to the idea that we're dealing with off-world entities, at the highest level of this cabal. And that, there's positive ETs and negative ETs, but they only understood the very surface. They only understood it in little beats and pieces. So what I did is I just put it all together for them to understand the bigger picture. And, back then nobody was really ready for this, but now it seems like people are enjoying this. People are telling me, sending me DMs that this book activated them, that, they're so appreciative of my work because You know, they were, it's almost like I transformed them, like they were able to align with their higher self. They became, you know, activated. It changed their life in a positive way. And to me, that means that I am fulfilling my mission, which is the activation of the other star seeds.
Yeah, actually, what I'm hearing is that the book itself is an activation tool, which is not when people think of activation tools, they might think of your crystals, that kind of thing, right? That but the book itself actually activates people, which is really, really amazing. To think that a book could do that. But you're right, that's what it feels like, is that every person literally, it's what I'm seeing is every person who touches the book gets activated.
That's what Sanat Kumara and the masters told me. That you know, the book was infused with the spiritual blessings of the higher councils, spiritual celestial administrations, and you know, when the time was right, it was going to be published, because I had no clue how it was all going to come about, Victoria. But
wow,
yeah,
that's, you know, when it's the right time and place, and that's the thing that's really difficult for people, is to really trust divine timing, because people want things to happen in their time, and we don't know. As they say, no one knows the time of God. Like, we just don't. So, but it's really important that we trust the messages that we receive, and also trust the divine timing, and that everything will fall into place exactly in the way that's best. And so I think that's actually an important message to share with everybody now who's so frustrated about how things aren't happening fast enough for them. One of the things I keep telling people is that if the information, all of the disclosure, so there are some people who think disclosure is just the disclosure of ETs, and some people think disclosure is just the disclosure of the corruption. It's actually all of it, as we talked about. If it were to all come out all at once, it would be overwhelming. It's like the opening up the dam, right? And then the information floods, and half the people under the dam end up dying because it's too much all at once. So the disclosure actually started quite a while ago, slowly turning up the tap, slowly turning it up, so that more and more information can start to flow out, but it's not so overwhelming that it destroys the landscape. So, but it's getting turned up. Like, I'm seeing the floodgates starting to open.
yeah,
and that it's starting to flow here, and it's starting to flow here, and it's starting to flow here. But humanity's kind of been prepped for it. So there isn't anybody, I don't think there's anybody on the planet, unless they're living under a rock, basically, that hasn't heard some of this.
I agree.
It won't come as a surprise. It will be more of, oh, that's real? But I thought it was just a conspiracy theory, or I thought it was just in the movies. And so everybody's been prepped for it at this point. It won't be that much of a surprise. And what's really interesting, talk about the kids our age, how a lot of this conversations we're having about timelines and multiverses, that's actually normal for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they will have zero difficulty understanding how it works. Like, oh yeah, multiverses and alternate timelines, that's been a normal part of their conversation since they were kids.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they've been prepped for it. They won't be in the least bit surprised if and when our galactic family makes their appearance. I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Because that's been a normal part of their conversation. At least the kids who, I think it's pretty much because it's in their video games, it's in their movies, it's the superhero movies. Humanity has all been prepped for it.
Absolutely. And I love that you use the analogy of the breaking of the water dam, because the true meaning of apocalypse in the book Revelation is a great revealing. It's a flooding of information.
Yeah.
So as you compare it to how the water, the dam is just cracking bigger and bigger and bigger, we're already at that point where it's just going to crack completely and it's just going to hit. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it all unfolds. And all the galactics are in key position. All the galactics are ready. It seems like the entire galactic community and the intergalactic community are all here in these huge motherships. Not only do we have the New Jerusalem that is hailing from the victory of Orion, we also have the Athena mothership, the Capricorn, as well as there's one more that I forget. Do you know the name of the fourth one? There's like four.
I know there's an Elohim ship up there.
I think that one is related to the New Jerusalem, right? The New Jerusalem ship.
I think so because I'm also on the New Jerusalem, another embodiment on the New Jerusalem.
All right, well, that's the Elohim one. I'm also part of that board.
Okay.
So I never knew you when we met down in the third dimension. I was like, hey, we've been working together up there, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing how like all the galactics are now coming together in the third dimension, right?
Right.
So it's like when people say, well, what if it doesn't happen? What if they open up or they throw us into an alternative negative timeline? And I always tell people, the thing about the higher intelligence is that they are beyond time travel. They are the ones that are not only generating reality, but they also have the capacity of seeing all the probable outcomes and then, have an effect on all of them in a positive way, to the point where they secure every probable outcome in favor of the light. In other words, even this whole concept of negative energies, darkness, is part of a game. It's part of our overall, it's part of creation, duality, the Luciferian rebellion. That was all orchestrated in a way where, it was designed so that we could have contrast, so that we could have growth. Because before duality set in, the universe, the multiverse was stagnant. It wasn't expanding anymore. So sometimes we need that duality to exist temporarily in order for the overall expansion of the cosmos to continue growing. Because without opposition, Victoria, there is no growth. But at the same time, that duality experimentation has a limit, and that limit is up. So, we have nothing to worry about. I always tell people the positive timeline has been secured in every probable reality.
Yeah, and I agree with that. So on the New Jerusalem, which I didn't even know that's where it was until about a year, I'm like, oh, that explains where it is I go. There's a room that they call the spiritual situation room, which is what human beings would call the war room. And they actually do have every possible outcome is already they can see every possible outcome. And the response to every possible outcome has already been created.
Exactly.
So there isn't anything that's happening now that isn't already on the 5D chess, right? It isn't already on the game field. They see all of it. It's all already been planned out in advance. And so what happens is just, okay, they do this, the dark side makes this move. Okay, great. The light already knows what their counter move is going to be.
Exactly.
Checkmate already exists.
Yeah.
And the side of dark knows that checkmate already exists. It's just pulling every last desperate attempt to maintain the control over the human experiment. As I call it, the name of the game that's been played here is the great human experiment. But what's been made very clear to me, what was made clear to me about 10 years ago, is that Earth has been a learning planet until at which time the collective of souls determined for it to be a planet of peace. The collective of souls have determined it is now time to move into the 1,000 years of peace that have been predicted. So Earth is no longer a learning planet. That time ended in 2020. That sole agreement of Earth as a learning planet. Now Earth is becoming a paradise. And so, but we agreed as a collective of souls to have this learning experience. We as a collective of souls agreed for those who work on the side of dark to come and play this role, this dark agenda, if you will, on our planet, specifically so the souls could learn through it. And I think, people get so caught up in the whole 3D human perception of reality, they tend to forget how to look at it from a soul perspective. Mm-hmm. And one of the other things that I say to people sometimes is, the whole God wins thing. I laugh over that. Like, God doesn't hate any aspect of itself. God doesn't win against itself. now there's this battle between the contrast of light and dark, but all of it is God.
Yeah, it's all contained within the one.
Yes.
The all-pervasive energy field. Yeah, you're right. And that's why darkness or evil is always on the losing end.
Well, and they even admit that in the movies. That's what I tell people. I make every single movie that gets made, the light always wins.
Yeah.
Love always wins.
Yeah, I've never seen a movie, where the dark wins, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Chronicles of Narnia, Star Wars, Avengers, every movie that we've seen that involves a battle between good and evil, light is always prevailing.
Yeah.
And so
now they might create a sequel
mm-hmm.
to have it go around again,
mm-hmm.
but light always wins.
And that's what's happening here in our reality, in our world.
Yeah.
And people just need to accept it. And actually, instead of living in the worry, what if, or in anxiety, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? When is solar flash? When are we going to 5D? Enjoy the process, people. We are in the process of transformation right now.
Right.
Enjoy the process, not just the destination. The destination already exists. The future and the past are all happening simultaneously. So the fifth dimensional Earth that leads into the millennium is already existing. Let's just enjoy the process.
Well, right. We came here to create. That's actually, we didn't come here to bypass the creation experience. We actually came here to create it, to physically manifest it here, to bring heaven to earth. And people do want to bypass it. And you can't, I keep telling people, you don't spiritually bypass the human experience. The only way to spiritually bypass the human experience is to die. So, but we didn't come here to do that. We came here to create this new reality. We came here specifically for this transition experience that's happening right now. And this is the cocoon phase of humanity moving from a caterpillar to a butterfly. The butterfly is inevitable. That's the 5D. We will get there. We came for this creation process, this recreation that we get to do right now of taking this old human experience and transforming it into what's possible. How exciting is that? We're creators. That's why we came here.
Absolutely. And those that are part of the Council of the Elohim, which makes up the core of the 144,000, actually created the entire multiverse, and now they're embodied in human form. So we're reaping our own creations. We're experiencing our own creations in a way. I've always believed that the creator and the creation were one and the same, that the creation was an extension of the creator so that the creator could explore more of itself.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And that every one of us are an aspect of that.
Exactly.
And so, we have our religiosities that have tried to, and all of our fear-based belief systems that have tried to tell us that we're separate from God, that we have to go through our religions to get to God, that we have to go through individuals to get to God. And that's simply not true. That separation is an illusion.
Yeah. It's a perception that was actually generated by the fallen ones or the dark side.
Right. Right. To keep humanity from discovering their true divinity.
Exactly. And that's all coming to an end with the end of organized religion, which I am very well pleased.
Yes. Yeah. It is one of the systems that's starting to collapse, and people are finally starting to see how religion has been used to divide and conquer humanity. And we don't need it anymore.
Exactly. People are starting to realize that, they are the temple, that God is within, as well as everything all around us. Every living thing is a part of God, including every insect. That's why I respect insects. Unless they're like really bugging me, I'll kill a fly. But if they're not bugging me, I respect insects because they're also part of that.
Yep. And even the viruses and germs too. So
yeah, of course. Everything that is living is part of God.
That's right.
Organic, of course. Yeah.
Right. Well, it has been so wonderful seeing you here, and I look forward to us getting together again. Something tells me that this won't be a one and done. And it's been great to have you here and sharing with my audience They're not mine. It's so funny when you say, I'm like, because I don't own anybody. Sharing with the viewers of the show the insights that you have. And I know that this conversation will set a lot of people at ease because they are so caught up in what's presently happening on the planet. And as you were saying, you know, to not focus so much on the chaos that's swirling around us and stay focused on what it is we're creating, because what we're creating is so amazing. And those of us who have seen what the future looks like know that this is just the breakdown that happens before the breakthrough.
Exactly. The calm before the storm, as they say in the White Hat community.
Right. Well, and not even the storm, because for me, I see what's on the other side of the storm. And we're in the I use breakdown before the breakthrough because it is such an easy term for people to understand. The caterpillar goes through a breakdown before it breaks through as the butterfly. So we're in that breaking down and reconstruction process. And that to get excited about that and to put your creative juices into that and see how amazing every one of us is, how important the role is of every single one of us in creating this new reality. Because every single one of us is a vital player in that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the energy that we infuse into it is what creates it. And I keep telling people the longer we dwell on the suffering and dwell on the confusion and dwell on the what isn't happening and dwelling on the problems, the longer it actually takes for us to create this new reality, because our own energy is what speeds the process.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Victoria.
So thank you so much for being here. It is so good to see you again.
And for those that haven't had a chance to order my book, it is available on Amazon, Our Cosmic Origin, and I don't have a copy on me now. It's the book with the all-seeing eye at the center with the earth.
Okay. And I'll add the link in the description below the show, so everybody will have access to that and know how to find you.
Thank you. And for those that are interested in learning about their galactic stellar heritage, the galactic history in great detail, and how to access their multidimensionality, I am offering an online course. I'm actually booked till October, but the October class is still available for those that want to sign up and have a full-blown activation with me. And I will also give you the link to that if it's okay, Victoria.
Oh, yeah, that would be great.
Wonderful.
And for all of you who are watching, as I always say, remember to hold your light so high others can't help but see their own light. Together, we are creating a world of love, peace, harmony, and prosperity for all life on Earth. And as always, get bold, be fearless, and live free.
And so be it.